It was another pretty decent box office weekend, just not exactly the blockbuster that a lot of people were hoping for. And the problem wasn't here in the United States, it was overseas. There's an awful lot of weakness in Superman in the international box office, and I'm sure a lot of people are probably noticing that. But they're all going to ask the same question: why? And how did the other movies do? Well, that's what we're here to talk about, so here we go! Now, before we get started, just a quick reminder, go ahead and take a look down below, make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. And if not, why not? You get lots of information and entertainment each and every day, with few exceptions. And you get lots of live streams as well, in addition to breaking news segments, and of course, if you're a member, watch parties and some behind the scenes stuff. So check it out, and while you're down there, hit that thumbs up button as well. We'll have plenty to comment on in a moment. So, here we go. So, opening day box office in the United States went very well, and I fully expected it to. You have a $56.5 million opening day. That's the second biggest of 2025. Now, it didn't do that the same way that Jurassic World Rebirth didn't do that. There was a lot of extra days in front of that to help the number along. You see, now that we count preview numbers, and it can be any kind of preview number, along with what actually happens on the weekend, you get some, let's say, not exactly honest opening weekend numbers. Well, this is an opening day. We're going to forgive it for now, but we'll just say 56.5 million was pretty good. Now, of course, you had Deadline weighing in on this. This is our pal over there, Nancy Taglioni, and she is really good because she does worldwide box office, and she does a great job. And when you look at it, Superman was gunning towards 210 million worldwide, and that number kept going up to like 225, and the number's really good, except the international box office looked like a 1-to-1 parity. That's not normal, and it's usually not a good sign for some of these tentpole blockbusters, which are supposed to have broad appeal globally. And if you're doing 1-for-1 instead of 2-to-1, you usually don't have the most successful film on the planet. And despite all of that, Superman is still the #1 film on the planet. But for how long? And will it last long enough that it will surpass any expectations that Fantastic Four Final Steps has? Because it's not that far away. You're looking at 78 international box office markets that are supposed to be helping out the North American monster. And yet, it doesn't look that way. And now we look at The Hollywood Reporter. Box office, Superman saves the day for DC Studios with 122 million domestic, 217 million global. This is a problem. Why? Well, because the bad superhero movies usually underperform in the international markets. And it just kind of seems like a truism at this point, especially when you look at earlier tentpole openings such as Captain America Brave New World, which opened to 92 million internationally. If you have only 95 million in the international markets as Superman, you've got a real problem. Oh, and as an aside, the sub-headline here is rather misleading. Jurassic World Rebirth crosses a huge $500 million globally. Yeah, that's not huge, it's not unexpected, and it's not going to get you anywhere close to profitability. And I don't care what you claim to have paid for this. You're at least this much into this movie at this point. We'll see where this finishes up, but all of a sudden, I feel the brakes coming for the dinosaur. And now we turn to the numbers. This is the place we go when we don't need to go any other place. It gives us all the numbers that we could possibly need and a pretty decent understanding of what's happening. As you can see here, as we finish up the weekend, as you're watching this on Monday, you're looking at 122 million. Now, those numbers will go a little bit higher, I would imagine. We'll get some, well, not very round numbers in the near future. But that's a pretty solid opening in the States. The problem is this international number of 95 million. 95 million. At least it beat Captain America Brave New World, right? A total global number of 217 million is nothing to shake a stick at, and a lot of people will get very excited about this. And as long as Superman keeps ticking away and doing a good job weekend over weekend and not falling off too badly, it should get close to a break-even number. It's possible that if the international continues to slide, especially next week, it won't. And again, we do get a breakout of the preview numbers at $22.5 million. Now again, I will tell you, this opened up in advance several times over, including the Amazon Prime screening that was a couple of days before even the preview day. Not to mention early screenings that happened, I think, a week and a half, 2 weeks earlier. But by the time you get to the Friday 56.1 million, you've probably had a fair number of people see this film. All of the early adopters and the people that would be the usual suspects, like myself, have seen the film, talked about the film, reviewed the film, and any other thing they're going to do with the film. And when we get to Saturday, the number falls to where I would have expected Friday to be at 37.7 million. And finally, we go rolling into Sunday, and it's at 28.2. Is that a trend we should be worried about? We won't know, at least not until next weekend. So we'll just have to track this day to day to see how it's doing. But to be fair, it needs to do a lot better internationally. But in comparison with everybody else, as we have here, Superman was the big winner at $29,500 per screen. 122 million in 4,135 theaters is pretty good. And if you compare that to where Jurassic World Rebirth is still setting at 4,300 theaters plus, it's doing really, really well. And that's the other problem. Jurassic World Rebirth only performed to $40 million, a 57% fall off from the previous actual weekend, and a slide that I would consider to be one that could end up dragging this film down quickly. F1's doing great, the best any Apple Studio release has ever been. In fact, at $13 million more on a 50% fall off, it's doing rather well in 3,400 theaters, and I think that this is going to indicate what we'll see going forward in all studios in the near future. How to Train Your Dragon hanging in there at 7.8 million this last weekend, 31% fall off in 3,200 theaters. $239 million domestic to date. A little bit skinny. It's quite possible the international box office to the rescue on this one. Lilo is the failure, the flop, and the disaster that Disney has invited since they decided to poison their entire corporation. $3.9 million is a 33% fall off, and you're looking at a grand total domestically of 63,666,191. There's a series of numbers in there that are quite appropriate, and I have a feeling that Disney will not be making this mistake again. Everything else at this point is an also-ran, but it is worth noting that Lilo and Stitch are closing ever closer on the $1 billion mark and is likely to just crawl over it. And of course, the thing that I always pay attention to, because exhibitors absolutely need this number and they need it to be high, and it comes in just shy with 20 offerings of a total box office earning domestically of $196,823,852. Look, all it needed was another 3 million plus, and boom, you have a $200 million box office weekend, and that's just what the doctor orders, at least in the summer, for all the exhibitors. But those are my thoughts on the weekend. What were yours? Did you get a chance to see Superman? Did you see anything else that was out in theaters this weekend? Do you have some idea about what's good and bad in films? And would you like to share? Do you think DC Studios is on for a winning run going forward? Or do you think this is more same-o, same-o, and will put the fatigue in superhero movies even faster? Again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya! Maybe it's Superman.